Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I am going to be doing my oral narration of my Pad Island Rare Machine analysis and review. So, without further ado, the Pad Island Rare Machine and Collab is coming this Monday to Puzzle & Dragons, and it comes with some of our favorite characters dressed up in swimsuit attire, which is both beautiful and revealing. So, the Gung-Ho is, I think, trying to increase value from their collab roles by at least promoting silver eggs that are beneficial, and in my opinion, the Pad Island is actually the best collab so far in terms of silver eggs. So I actually encourage everyone to roll in it, at least to get Nabi and Goemon, who I'll explain more as we go through this review. And the one main problem I have with this whole collab is that there was no lifeguard Odin. Like, they had such a good opportunity to give a handsome hunk or beefcake or husbando for the female population, but they failed, and I feel that Antonio misses out on a very potent Halloween costume, as he has one of the best Odin cosplays out there. He's a funny guy. So there are 3 8 stars, 3 7 stars, 4 6 stars, 2 5 stars, and 4 4 stars in this whole collab, and that should say summer, which it will after this video, and the video goes here after. So the first 8-star to roll is S Calamari or S Shamali and water form. Now, Gung-Ho is pretty smart. They realize that S Shamali is probably one of the best cards out there in terms of sub power, because it adds the most damage of any sub in the game, and by recoloring her to different colors, giving her a swimsuit that doesn't fit too well, is going to sell lots of magic stones. Now, S Shamali has 7 enhanced water orb awakenings, and that adds a tremendous amount of damage, as well as guaranteeing that every single water orb that appears comes enhanced. And that's a big deal, because her active actually causes 4 turns of Skyfalls along with a double orb change, and that means every water combo that falls down is going to be fully enhanced and deal massive amounts of damage. And because of that, she can be used on every single mono water team in the game, including those that need hearts, like say Summer Miru or Lakshmi. Because she adds so much damage, she's worth bringing. You can use her active, then some other active to correct the board to form your heart cross, and she will serve you very well. As a leader, she is a harder hitting Yomi Dragon, same multiplier, but has way more enhanced orbs. So she does more damage, but it's not as effective because health is not as beneficial as recovery, especially if co-op when you're combining your health pools. But overall, she's going to be a fantastic roll if you're lucky enough to roll her. Next up is Sniper at Rest Miru, and she is essentially the exact same as Light Miru, except recolored. And I go through a whole review on her because she is a 500,000 monster point card in my review over here. You can click that, it'll take you to it in red so far, but I basically just weigh the pros and cons of Light versus Water Miru, and it essentially just comes down to that Light Miru has no resistance, because Light doesn't get resisted, whereas Water does have resistance to wood bosses. Granted, right now we don't have any overpowering wood bosses, but that will change in the future at some point, and Water Miru will have an innate disadvantage there. Also, there is no Wedding Akachi equivalent for water, so that is a small downside if you were fortunate enough to pull him. If not, your sub pool is basically just as deep and just as efficient. Like I said, most of my analysis goes into that review here. I didn't want to take up like too much space because this is supposed to be like an overall collab review, but she's essentially just as powerful as Light Miru, like nearly as powerful as Light Miru. Can clear endgame content, but you can get her right away. You don't have to go through the hassle of evolving her, which is challenging, as well as skilling up. Her skill up drops from the dungeon. It takes fewer compared to Light Miru, who takes 15. So it's something to consider, because if you're, say, struggling with, say, Mythic plus Descends or Rogue Descends, if you have Summer Miru, you'll automatically be able to tackle all of those right away. And that might increase your happiness. Like, we don't know what the next rotation of Monster Point cards are going to be, and this could be stronger. We don't know. So, rounding out the 8 stars is Beach Claire. She comes in actually 2 different forms, a more tanned and more pale version. I like the pale version more for some reason, but it mainly just changes her from attacker to healer. Choose based on what your teams require, but not too much difference. And As part of the renewal for the older Pad Island cards, she gained the Machine Killer Awakening, which is useful in certain Annihilation level content. Like, Annihilation level content is considered quote-unquote the highest outside of, say, Arena 3, and a lot of it's heavily populated by Machine Zeus, Machine Hera, Machine Athena, so on and so forth. So there's a very mechanical theme going on. And this Machine Killer gives her 3 times damage. So that is a sizable advantage, and partially one reason why Sephiroth teams are favored, because they can challenge Machine and Zeus, Zeus and Machine Hera so efficiently because they do so much damage. And Beach Clear fits in that team. You are able to purchase her with 300,000 monster points, so you have to use your judgment whether it's worth it for you or not. Will it help advance you? But the main downside is that she breaks heart orbs, and right now, breaking hearts is the worst kind of orb changer possible, because heart cross leaders are the thing, and with Gremory being released, she can't be used on the team effectively because her active breaks hearts. It doesn't have any external or collateral benefit. And Lucifer Pandora teams are slowly declining in favor because they're not strong enough. They do reasonably high damage, but you need to stall for those actives, and stalling becomes an issue in Annihilation level content where things hit too hard. Use your judgment if you want to purchase her, or get really, really lucky. So, going down to the 7 stars, we have Metatron. I mean, Watcher Metatron. Metatron doesn't necessarily sound the best, but like Metatron, despite her name having the word meta, has not been in the meta for quite some time now, actually. She is an okay leader. Like, this is actually her strongest form right now, because it gives 2 skill lock resist awakenings, which is something she didn't have before. But it's less important with co-op, because you have so many more subs that can offer that to you. And 27 times leader is actually not bad, because it's unconditional for gods and healers. However, your leaders have no damage multiplier on their own, and no offensive awakenings. Like, she only has like skill boost, bind clear, bind recover, auto heal, so on and so forth. It should be auto heal. I need to change that. See, sometimes I notice things I need to change when I go through these videos. But she has nothing offensive about her, so when both your leaders don't bring an offensive awakening, you're dealing quite a bit less damage, so it's going to be harder. And the 1.35 times health is just modest at best, which becomes 1.82 times. And if you're using her as a sub, she kind of falls short compared to Awoken Isis, who has 1 less turn of cooldown, which means you're able to use her more frequently, or a better base for skill intelligence, as well as Awoken Isis having offensive awakenings for mono water teams, and covering better colors in the case of Raw Dragon. Small things, but it makes her a bit less viable, and it feels not as worthy of 7 stars, except for how pretty she is. Next up is the Beach Green Sonya, and she has one of the most powerful actives in the game. She actually changes the whole board to water and wood with 2 turns of haste. And that's incredibly powerful because it allows you to obviously flood the board with your ideal colors. If you're playing certain button teams, you can use another orb changer in conjunction for a whole board burst. Or you can inherit her for water teams or your green teams for such a powerful active. But for green teams, she actually has a reasonably strong body. Even though the dual 2 prongs and the dual row enhances kind of counteract, like they kind of fight against each other, it still allows her to be used on different teams, so she is quite powerful. Unfortunately, as a leader, she's going to fall flat compared to Green Sonya, who was not that great because of the dragon attacker restriction, and also because of the 6 combos. Like, the reason is because when you want to do damage, you want to form rows, and 14 times attack is not that high, so you need to form rows to deal damage. However, making 6 combos is sometimes tricky, and if you don't make the 6 combos, you're only hitting 6.25 damage. And that's quite low, whereas Blue and Green Sonya just need to connect 4, and they hit their full multiplier. It's a small thing, but it's going to make her less valuable as a leader, as well as having the restrictive typing. Finally, there is Beach Pandora, who is very pretty and festively dressed for the occasion. She's not wearing heels, which someone else is, which makes sense because you're going to the beach. However, she gained a Healer Killer Awakening, which is unfortunate because healer-type bosses are scarce at best. There's not many of them, whereas there's mainly God, Devil, Dragon, sometimes even, or Machine. So this Healer Killer Awakening is not going to see that much usage, and she's essentially the exact same as her Ultimate Evolution Pandora form, like the non-awoken form. You'd use her in the same places, and she's just more offensive because you get an extra 2-prong attack in the Healer-Killer Awakening. However, she does lose out on the Recover Bind, so that's something to keep in mind. But, fortunately, because of the Devil typing, you can use her on the Grimoire, who is coming out, who wants to use Devil and Balance types, as well as the Heart Cross. Going into the 6-star territory, we have Summer Ered, who is one of the best subs for Heart Cross leaders, or Lakshmi, if you have Andromeda on your team, because it's the only orb changer that has a good combo that makes heart orbs, because you get 2/3 water, 1/3 hearts. And the reason being is you can, of course, inherit Ered, but you're tacking on a longer cooldown, and Summer Ered and Andromeda have nearly synchronized cooldowns, so you can use them every 9 turns for huge bursts. So there's less stalling involved, which can be safer. And if I had the choice of either running Ryune, Skulls, or Summer Ered on my Water Mirror team, I would pick Summer Ered because I would be able to have access to the active I want more frequently if I had Andromeda, which I actually do. So I would use them in conjunction because it's so much more powerful. Because Ryune doesn't have a good combo orb changer. Like Hatsumi works, but it's just not as favorable compared to running Andromeda Summer Ered versus Ryune Hatsumi. And Skuld just they have another orb changer, but again it's Yashito. I can't say their name. It's from Final Fantasy, but just not as ideal. So was it Yashito for Ryune? Whatever. Skuld has Fenrir. Okay, but again, not as ideal to run as Andromeda. So Summer Ered actually has a lot of value because of that. And if you're not using, say, Summer Miru or Lakshmi, you have a bit less utility, little less value. But to be fair, Ryune does not have an ultimate evolution, so she's kind of just 2 rows, 2 prongs. Not the best. And Skuld has just an extra 2 prongs, so they're almost comparable at least. So if you are fortunate enough to roll Summer Ered, you can choose between glasses or contacts. I don't know why, I like the glasses one more. It also changes their typing from physical or attacker. Next up is Chester, who was a strange roll at first, and then they gave him a 4th skill bind resist awakening, so he has 4. So he alone brings 80% resistance, which is outrageous, and seems unnecessary until you remember that there are some push button teams in existence that have no skill bind resist, and I'm mostly talking about Awoken Liu Bei, because him and Zeus Dios have no skill lock resist. And by bringing Chester, you basically guarantee your full immunity. You just need 1 more sub, which you probably can find. And that way you can still have your core of Zeus Dioses with 100% skill bind immunity. And Chester has an 8-turn cooldown, so you might be able to inherit an enhance or something useful on top of his active, as it's not that beneficial. But outside of that, probably not that much value, because Chester was really not used for the most part otherwise. Just something to keep in mind if you run Awoken Liu Bei. Next we have the Summer Meimei, who is a different color. I thought it would be Summer Karen, which is weird, but maybe Karen will be a different color. We don't know. But a Meimei will either be water green, water wood, or wood water, depending on which evolution you pick. And it just inverts her awakenings to either main water for the water typing or wood for the wood typing. And she does bring a unique active, like water, wood, and light is something we've never had before. However, there's no additional haste, there's no hearts, so it's less valuable today because heart cross meta is a big deal now. And without making hearts, you're not as beneficial and there's no haste. So unless you have a perfect combo, say you have like Awoken Hermes, Fenrir, or Gabriel now finally has a way to combo, which is nice. You're making a 2/3 water board, but no hearts, so it's something to keep in mind. So she won't be used on heart cross teams probably, but she'll be used on mono water teams to add a lot of passive damage. Finally, we have Volleyball star Lakshmi, and she is exact same as her regular Rare Machine counterpart in terms of awakenings, except she gains bonus damage not from clumps of heart matches, but from heart cross. And she makes a heart cross and gives you a 57.75% damage reduction shield. And that's quite fantastic because you're a row-based team with 39 times attack, 2.25 times recovery, and heart cross damage reduction. So she effectively has twice as much health and 4.5 times recovery. Quite significant. However, she only has a single time extend, and heart crosses are not easy to make. So you might struggle to form rows and heart crosses because when you think about it, Miru, Kaede, and Sumire all have ample time extends or some sort of time extension built into their kit, and Lakshmi doesn't. So this might be challenging, so you might have to load up on time extend cards. Conversely, you can also pair her with Summer Miru. You'll gain more damage reduction, a bit less recovery multiplier, but you'll gain 2 more seconds to move orbs, and that should be sufficient. So that's what I would do if I were to roll Beach Lakshmi. I pair with Summer Miru. Finally, we're into the 5-star territory, and unfortunately, Fu and Kurone are just weak. They weren't good in their Sticker Girl form. They're not any better in their beach outfits, and Fu doesn't look attractive to me at all. I don't like it. Kurone at least looks cute, so that's something you got going for you, but you can't use Kurone on Gremory because of no balance or Devil. At least Fu can be a very budget sub on Miru, but if you can invest in Miru, you probably have a better sub available. Finally, we're into the 4-star territory, and this is actually where a lot of the good stuff happens. Like, a lot of the magic is happening in the silver rolls, and that's why I encourage you to roll, because you're going to get good value right away. Like, if you roll a gold egg that's not Fu or Kurone, fantastic. You've got a gold egg that's probably powerful. And if you roll a silver egg that your initial target, can't really be disappointed. So I don't think you're going to be really disappointed because the 4-stars have so much power. And these ones don't evolve, so you can't use their skills for skill inheritance. Just keep that in mind. But you can use them as bases to inherit other skills. So first off, we have Summer Wilda, and she has 5 enhanced Water Orb Awakenings, so that's nice. Every Water Orb falls down enhanced. And she also has 20% passive water resist damage. Now, this has been used in a lot of challenge mode clears for very high-end content as part of a cheese team where you use Courage, who changes the enemy's element to water. And this allows you to have 100% damage immunity to bosses. So you can't die. So it's just a very long grind, but you can't die. So it might take you hours, but you can get a clear by using Summer Awilda with other leaders, say like a Woken Neptune with other Awildas, so on and so forth, to get the damage mitigation down to 0 or 100%. So you won't die, but you can kill things in a cheesy manner. But outside that, she may not see too much use as a sub. Like, it's 5 enhanced Water Awakenings, not much else. Still helpful, and a 5-turn based cooldown can be useful, but you may have other options. But something to keep in mind outside of your Fermented Dairy team. Next up, we have the guy who says Surf's Up or Dude or something that all those hip to the hot people say, which is Surfing Goemon. And this Goemon is superior to his farmable form because he has a 2nd skill boost. And 1 skill boost may not seem that dramatic, but it's huge when you're dealing with push-button teams because it allows you to run different cards that you normally would want to bring, but couldn't because of a lack of skill ups or skill boosts. Now, dual Goemon leaders with the Summer form will have 2 more skill boosts, and that's huge because if you follow the push-button team that I discussed about in my previous article, all you need is all the farmable ogres from Monday Dungeon, and a whole team of ogres, double Goemon, would have 20 skill boosts, and you would not need a single skill up on your Goemons to have them ready by turn 1. So you could push-button your way through a Mech Dragon's Massive Fortress in about 73 seconds or so. You can, of course, do other harder level content with a push-button team, change the subs based on what your monster box allows, but having Summer Goemon is huge because you get the extra skill boost, and new accounts that you just made, like an alt, would have access to him immediately. You don't have to go through the hassle of evolving him twice, which might be challenging for a new account. Plus, the extra skill boost means you need less investment. So you could actually start farming Mech Dragon's Massive Fortress very quickly with a new account, and it's worth it trying to roll just to get him because of that reason. So he's one of the big gems from this collab. And speaking of gems, we come to Nabi, who is probably the strongest 4-star that's not niche ever to be released. Like, she has fantastic awakenings, 3 row enhances, 3 heal enhances, 2 skill boosts, and the co-op multiplayer boost. Now, her weighted stats are only 687. However, with the co-op multi-boost and full 297, it brings her weighted stats up to about 1500. No other monster can do that with plus eggs. except from, say, like other monsters with the co-op bonus, of course. But any monster that doesn't have it will not have stats as high as her. So if you're playing her in co-op, you'll have the highest weighted stats on your team probably, and her lack of skill bind resist is compensated because co-op has more monsters. And her dragon typing can be used on blue Sonya teams. However, on Sumire, Lakshmi, and Beach Miru, she might shine the brightest because her active causes 3 turns of Heart Skyfalls on a 5-turn cooldown. And if you're running, say, Sumire and have lots of haste, you can cycle her active up to have 100% uptime. So you're always going to have a Heart Orbs fall down. Miru teams will have 60% at worst, which is fantastic. Like, you're always going to be able to activate your Heart Cross. So she's going to have a home, I can pretty much guarantee, on those teams. And that's huge for a 4-star. You're going to get her probably guaranteed. So if you're thinking of purchasing Beach Miru, you must, well, I highly encourage you to roll for Navi at the very least. And last but not least is the Beach Armadale. She rounds out this whole collab, and she's actually a strong monster. Like, she's just mainly overshadowed by Navi and Goemon in terms of like flash and usefulness, but she's actually quite a powerful base monster for inheritance with all the enhanced wood orb awakenings and the water orbs, which can be converted at some point to enhanced wood. So she brings a lot of passive damage, and her active is only on a 4-turn cooldown. So you can inherit something on top of it, so she makes a reasonable base, and if you use the active and wait a few more turns, you can enhance the wood orbs. It's useful, it's not disappointing, like, you probably would find a use for her, I'm sure you would. So that rounds out the whole Pad Island rare machine analysis. I encourage you to go to my site and read it over. Like, I'm not reading this word for word, I'm kind of just summarizing from memory what I wrote about, and take a look. But I encourage you to roll because there is so much value in this collab, especially in the lower ends. Like, for those who are, say, light or non-IAP, you should roll because an opportunity like this comes around once a year, to be honest, and it's going to propel your account forward, especially new accounts that get going on. You can button through Mech Dragon, get plus eggs, get rank experience. You go fast. Even more advanced accounts will love going on because it's stronger. The extra skill boost means you wait less. So hopefully you enjoyed my review. Let me know how much you're planning to roll. Do you plan on purchasing Claire or Miru? And what do you think of this video? Subscribe to my YouTube and follow my blog. And happy puzzling!